Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I-Man here from the Blockrunner, MetaZone, Rovi, and MScribe, and today we're going to be talking about NAT. Finally back home, dude.
Yeah, NAT AI for once.
Yeah.
Because,
NAT
AI.
anymore.
Yes.
AI.
No, we're going to go back to AI.
Oh.
But not today. NAT today because, I don't know, feels like one of those days, dude. There's a lot happening with NAT.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny when the number goes up, I get a lot more DMs about NAT.
Of course, naturally. All of a sudden, people are going to come out like, holy crap, dude.
You were right. It's like,
yeah, what can I do? How do
I told you like several months ago.
How do I give myself to you? You know? It's kind of like, it is weird. People get a little weird when numbers go up, right? It's like, I want to see more of this. Like, how do I contribute, right? How do I get in there and like help accelerate this growth? I mean, we ask ourselves that question every single day.
Sure,
right? This is why we work on the things that we work on. It's what gives us direction and motivation in our own lives as far as like, what is the ultimate goal and purpose of everything, right? Nat seems like a pretty worthy North Star.
And all you had to do is look into the math.
Yeah. And look into the math and look into the reality state of what's going on, not just in crypto, but what's going on with Bitcoin. And you understand Bitcoin is the heart of crypto. Like literally, it's like the beating pulse without it. Like if Bitcoin just fizzles away and dies for whatever reason,
the industry's dead.
Everything is dead. Everything you love and adore about crypto, which seemingly these days is becoming less and less.
Few and far between, I hear.
Yeah, so we're gonna start off with that, I guess. There's a little bit of drama happening.
Yeah, but first we need to look into Vanity Fair.
That's where the drama is happening.
Yeah.
Well, it's yeah, there's just drama happening, right? It's our heroes of yesterday are becoming our villains. Literally, they look like villains.
They do.
Right?
It says, doing a Vanity Fair photo shoot while delaying your token for the 14th time due to market conditions is wild. Here's the link. Very interesting. So we got Novogratz.
I don't know who that guy is, but he looks pretty marvelous, I would say.
Very much like a
magician or like a wizard, right? Like, yeah, I would see him come out of Hogwarts.
They look like the people out of the Hunger Games.
They do.
That's
yes, exactly.
Yeah, so you got the OpenSea founder back there in his little suit, and I don't know who the hippie guy is, but he basically represents the Ethereum Foundation, I think. If you get
into the no shoes, obviously.
No shoes, probably hasn't bathed in weeks, stuff like that, right? Like, and this right here is like mainstreams. This is like the perfect visual of like what mainstream thinks about when they hear crypto. It's like, here they are.
Yeah.
And then they themselves, the crypto industry representatives, I don't know if they were co-opted into dressing into this entire attire or they like voluntarily showed up to the shoot like this. I don't know.
No, this is definitely a setup, dude. Absolutely a setup.
So the people who like coordinated this whole photo shoot, like, we're going to dress these people up like Batman villains. Right? On purpose.
Hunger Games
Hunger
leaders.
Games. And then we're going to release this super long article talking about crypto and its rise and its
so this is like they lured them in. They're like, they just dress fancy.
Mm-hmm.
They took pictures and it basically a hit piece.
Yeah, and then the timing of this release is coincidentally comes out the day after OpenSea announces its like retraction of an airdrop, which the entire crypto space has kind of been like hoping for the last year or so.
Yeah, they were hoping to dump the tokens for the last year. That's what they're hoping.
Yeah, just like they're waiting for Pump's token too, right? It's like, dude, it's some sort of weird cultural expectation. Like, we become users of platform get big, therefore we deserve some sort of kickback through all of this, right?
The expectations.
Yeah, who set that precedent? Was it? I mean, Uniswap did.
I don't know. I think it was a series of patterns occurring, and they're like, okay, anytime I get an airdrop, the pattern tells me that I need to sell it.
For sure. I mean, look at Magic Eden. They did this.
Yeah, they're down 99.99%.
Even more than that. Like, they're gone. They left us, dude. They didn't just leave us with a token that's down 99%. They just completely exited the space. Like,
Yeah.
We're having fun flipping dice over here.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not OpenSea's future, but nonetheless, it doesn't look good. You know, this leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth, but you would expect this like in the bear market, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just like this shot tells everything. All right, let's continue here. So we got what we were talking about earlier, OpenSea. This is the announcement where they're basically explaining that the C token is not coming out, and it's due to market conditions.
Yeah, even though they spent like a whole year kind of hyping it up and directing their users to basically trade, because that would be like the distribution logic of this token, right? The more you trade, the more C you will receive. So in hindsight, it looked more like a scheme just to generate, more market liquidity and to add viability to their pivot, which is they're more of like a token platform rather than an NFT platform.
Mm-hmm.
They needed to do something, cook up some sort of mechanism here to inspire trading activity, and this was it. But to kind of pull the rug after that really hurts for a lot of people, I'm sure.
Yeah, and they said that they are doing refunds on the last 3 to 6 waves, not the first 3.
Yeah, which are the
most voluminous of waves.
That's right. The waves closest to announcement and initiation, right? Typically, that's where you get the most participation. So why did they decided to exclude those waves? I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah. It's like we're keeping these fees, guys.
That tranche is for us.
Yeah.
But you gotta have back. You can have the cheeklets, basically.
Yeah, but that is not the NAT token.
Yeah, that's what the industry. So if you actually read that Vanity Fair article, which is interesting in itself, I think there's like an Eric Voorhees interview or part where he kind of discusses the two camps in crypto. There's like a legacy crypto camp that came in through Bitcoin, and they believed in those core philosophical tenets of sovereignty and decentralization of things. And then 2017 happened, and it kind of brought in a whole new camp of participants, right? Which are basically the opportunists, the people coming in to, sling their presence around to basically extract as much as possible.
Yeah,
right?
Sling their website white papers.
Yeah, that was a thing back then.
Yeah.
And eventually that turned into NFTs and then eventually meme coins. So it's like,
and then that's it. And that's crypto.
Yeah.
Full loop.
Basically. So it's like, we feel like, there's got to be something out there that recenters what crypto is about back to those like philosophical tenets.
Yeah.
And we think NAT is that perfect, vessel.
Yeah. So again, NAT, 26,000 holders and the market cap around 28 million. And so what is NAT? It is the second subsidy to Bitcoin. And the reason why that's important is because without the NAT token, you are subjected to Bitcoin's halving, which occurs every 4 years. And that halving is essentially the revenues of miners getting cut in half every single 4 years. And so why would you care about that? Well, the revenue of miners represents the security of Bitcoin. So in order to increase the security of the network, you need to increase the revenues of the miners. So how do you increase the revenues of the miners when their revenue gets cut in half every 4 years? Well, the only way to do that is Bitcoin's price exponentially increases every 4 years, or at least doubles, which is an exponential increase.
Right.
And so want to point me to something that has exponentially doubled for decades? Yeah, well, you can't, right? So it's impossible for a price to double forever and just to maintain a minimum security of the network.
Yeah, so that implies, I guess, a couple things, right? One, that, security isn't being regarded as that important of a thing.
Yeah, nobody is talking about security for some reason.
Yeah, even people who have like a large vested stake into Bitcoin. Like
even the people from the 2017 and before class.
Exactly.
It's odd.
It's very odd. They're very much about preserving that ethos, meaning like anybody who attempts to, navigate the use case of Bitcoin to anything other than, this decentralized money device, they get very up in arms about that, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Case in point, ordinals and inscriptions, like they have like a very vitriolic reaction to that kind of thing. But whenever, people point out that there's like a
structural economic issue with Bitcoin, it's like
they go flat.
Yeah.
It's just like there is no issue. There's nothing of concern there.
Yeah.
Right?
So before we show like an example of that, just so you know, the top 4 miners in Bitcoin are interacting with the NAT token.
Right, meaning all these miners are receiving NAT every single block.
Correct. So if you mine a block of Bitcoin, not only do you get the subsidy of Bitcoin itself, but you also get the second subsidy in the NAT token.
Yeah, which is what this nifty little leaderboard down there kind of represents. So not all of them who have received NAT have taken, either they're not aware that they're receiving NAT, or they're just, not in support of it being of any kind of like economic contribution to their, their efforts.
Yeah, it's likely they're not aware, and because if anyone understands the structural economic issue of Bitcoin, it's the miners. They feel it every time their revenues just get cut in half, and they're hoping the price just at least doubles just so they can continue paying the bills and, hopefully increasing the security of the network by buying more hardware, turning them on, and adding them to their own network. So here's an example here. So we have Rand from Crypto Banter, and he says AI has killed Bitcoin forever. It became Bitcoin mining's biggest competitor, not another crypto AI, because both industries compete for the same thing, which is electricity. Right now, AI is willing to pay much more for it. Bitcoin mining revenue per megawatt is $57 to $129. The equivalent for AI is $200 to $500 for the same electricity, but up to 8x more profitable. That's why miners are starting to pivot. Core Scientific signed a massive AI hosting deal. Hut 8 signed a $7 billion AI infrastructure agreement, and Cypher Mining cut its hash rate 51% to focus on AI compute. So now the question is emerging. If AI becomes the highest bidder for electricity, what happens to Bitcoin? And so he's got a video that explains. And so he basically says there's 2 options. Bitcoin price goes up or it goes down.
What a breakthrough.
Yeah.
What a revelation, dude.
But what's interesting is that in the scenario where he says Bitcoin price goes up, he says that everything is fine. And so, which misses the point, is that even if Bitcoin price goes up, let's say it goes up to $125,000 or let's say $200,000 this year.
Okay.
Right? After this year, there's one more year left before it halves again. And so now that $200,000 price, equivalent value, security value, is going to get cut in half. And so now you really have $100,000 price Bitcoin.
Right.
And so, and then what do you expect? Bitcoin's going to go from 200 to 400,000. What about when it reaches?
Basically.
What about when it reaches 1 million? It's just going to go to 2 million.
Yes.
And then when it reaches 10 million, it's just going to go to 20 million just to sustain today's security.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I think that is like the mode of expectation for the common Bitcoin holder, right? And it's the allure of like why you would buy Bitcoin in the first place, because it's like if that systemic nature to that price action doesn't maintain or hold, then like the whole structure of Bitcoin kind of like goes kaput. Yeah. So it's like I'm kind of betting that it will, through some sort of universal force of to not to my knowledge of what that is. Just it is what it is, right? Bitcoin just has to follow this trajectory, or else like it just
I think it's fair.
It's a failed experiment.
When you look at the outline of Bitcoin, like you look at its metrics, it's like metadata. You look at it itself. You say to yourself, it has to double. It has to. But then you ask the same question as like from a practical standpoint, can it actually double forever?
Yeah, I don't think most people go beyond to that like second question.
They do not.
They stop at it has to, so therefore it
must. Yeah.
Therefore I must buy.
Correct.
And like that's as far as I really need to go until it stops doing that thing I assumed it to do, which we're arguing is like it's happening as we speak.
Yeah, we're seeing examples of that. For example, like he was saying, these miners are pivoting to AI for a reason. They're not altruistically mining Bitcoin because they believe in it. No, this is a business for them, so they're going to make business decisions and they're going to try to maximize their megawatt to dollar ratio.
Right.
And so it is natural for them to kind of pivot to AI, but the consequence of this means the security of Bitcoin is diminished.
But difficulty adjusts, though.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, that's an excellent point. So then I went to go read some of the comments here. We have Fred. He's like, AI outbids miners for electricity. Miners just turn off their systems. And then the difficulty adjusts. And then so Fred isn't the only one here. Willie Woo's saying the same thing. And of course, what happens? TikTok, next block, add them back.
Yeah.
We have another block. No matter what happens, a block keeps getting produced. And so all they're saying, they're referring to a different part of Bitcoin's nature, which is its ability to maintain online presence, meaning that everybody can turn off their computers and only one laptop can continue running the whole network.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask Michael Saylor or anyone holding Bitcoin, would you be holding billions of dollars of Bitcoin when only one laptop's running the network? The answer is obviously no.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do that. And so just because you have this resiliency built into the network that you can just kind of turn it off and the network will still TikTok next block, that does not reflect its measure of security.
And therefore value.
So if there is very low security, there is very low value.
Pretty much.
And so what I'm saying is, with the halving occurring consistently every 4 years, you cannot have a price that exponentially grows to where it can maintain security. And if that's the case, that means security is on its way down, and therefore the value of the network is on its way down.
Yeah, like the true value, like whatever mechanic that would keep that value go up, even not considering like what's actually happening, I guess, underneath the hood, like that's, I don't know, that is the antithesis, I guess, of these like core philosophical tenets that, early Bitcoiners, early crypto cypherpunks, whatever, we all kind of, were attracted to in the first place. Basically, that's got to end up some sort of like manipulated game of some kind, whether that's the United States, like operating Bitcoin through altruistic means or motivations, whatever. Who knows? Whatever that centralized entity ends up being, maybe it's Tether.
Yeah, that's another good point. And so when they talk about like the miners just turning off the rigs, difficulty adjusting, imagine that happens systemically for the next decades that come from Bitcoin. What happens when miners just turn off the rigs? That is another way of saying that Bitcoin is getting a little bit more centralized as that occurs. Because when miners turn off their rigs, those who are left behind mining Bitcoin, they get a little bit more profitable. And when they get more profitable, they have a little bit more longevity. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, we got miners turning off their rigs. They go out of business. They start focusing on other services. And then we have less and less miners on the network. So tell me, does it make sense to invest in Bitcoin when it's completely centralized? When one actor can just decide who gets to transact on the network or not?
Yeah, it should be no.
Yeah, the answer is no. So miners just turning off rigs is not a good thing. And yeah, there is some resiliency and it's sort of designed for that. But systemically doing that is not sustainable for the value of the network.
So what's the solution, dude?
Yeah, hence we have NAT.
Yeah, hence the search we're wearing. They're here for a reason.
Yeah.
NAT doesn't just look cool. It's not like this fashion icon. Yeah. At least not yet, dude.
Yeah, we're not getting hit up by Vanity Fair just yet.
We're not getting acquired by Nike.
Right. No, not yet.
It's coming, though, dude.
Yeah.
How can you not resist rocking this? This should be in Paris.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the NAT token is born from Bitcoin itself. It has no team supply, no VC supply. There's no gamification here at all. It's just launched 2 years ago, almost. Eventually in November is going to be 3 years ago,
which is insane.
Yeah, so it launched a while ago. It was a completely free and fair mint. 20,000 people minted this whole thing, and it is a secondary subsidy token for the network that comes from the data of each block itself, and miners are currently earning that, and that's why we have a leaderboard of miners earning the NAT token.
Yeah.
And so if you are a miner in Bitcoin and you received a block within the last, let's say, year and a half, you have NAT in your wallet right now. In your Coinbase wallet, there's NAT there that you can extract.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of market reaction lately. So NAT goes through its periods of, up and down sentiment-wise swings, just like any, asset does. But I think lately a lot of the sentiment uprise is centered around, some of these miners building native tools to distribute NAT to their pool participants, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there's even been leaks of like these actual interfaces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So naturally people see that and they get, inspired, I guess, like for the future prospects of that. If one miner is willing to put in that technical due diligence to integrate NAT to that degree, you can assume others will down the line as well, especially if, number go up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and yeah, so we have the NAT token, and we have a huge community. Like I said, there's 25,000 people holding this token, and we have a tweet here by Rome. It says it's a pitch to Tether, NAT, the Bitcoin's second block reward for sustainable mining. So Tether is a recent participant in the whole Bitcoin mining space.
Yeah,
Those guys make a ton of money, right? Just with their Tether business by itself.
It's the most efficient company on earth, meaning from like a value per employee perspective.
Absolutely.
So they have a lot of money to expense, kind of like throw around, and we see it. They're making all kinds of investments now. They're participating in the Bitcoin mining loop.
Yeah. So now that they're mining Bitcoin, the pitch here is for them to recognize the NAT token itself. Just because, I mean, even if you have billions in quarterly revenue with your other side gig, compared to Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin mining is essentially a black hole. The security is completely dependent on more energy consumption on the network. Mm-hmm. So energy consumption goes up in the network for Bitcoin, security goes up. And so if you're going to have $100 trillion asset, you better be consuming a ton of energy to justify that. And if you are, that means you are justifying the $100 trillion network value. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, if time goes on and continues having, even Tether is going to have an issue here mining Bitcoin profitably.
Right.
So that's why the pitch is there. And of course we have here Ample just today they moved more NAT, right? So they're selling it. They're actively participating.
Yeah. And so intuitively for a lot of people, maybe you're like new to the idea of NAT and you're like, okay, well, sell action is like a bullish indicator. Why?
Yeah, right.
And then you extrapolate. So you're telling me these miners, they're going to be constantly selling the NAT that they receive?
Yeah.
It's like, doesn't that add, downward pressure to the token?
For sure. Just like it adds downward pressure to Bitcoin when they sell Bitcoin.
Yeah. So it's like, but a lot of people want Bitcoin, right? So what's going to make people want NAT?
Yeah, it's the realization that this mathematical discovery here is inevitable. Right.
Yeah, and as time goes on, it's like, again, we're seeing more independent voices that are not our own starting to, validate or corroborate with that thesis, that understanding of like Bitcoin has a troubling dynamic to it that needs some sort of addressing to, right?
Yeah, this like I said, this
so it's all about positioning, in other words.
Yeah, if imagine let's say NAT is 10 years too early right now. It's like your problem, let's assume it's correct, but it won't be a problem for another 10 years, let's say 20 years. Imagine buying Bitcoin 10 years too early.
Yeah.
Like,
what a mistake.
Yeah, what a mistake that would be, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so there's people taking notice of that, and they're identifying that as an opportunity, right? It's a positioning advantage you have over the rest of the market. Because this is obviously a very niche understanding. Even the big Bitcoin whales, either they don't understand it themselves or they're
ignoring it.
They're intentionally trying to like hide this for the sake of, bag preservation. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
You would have to actually like be God to know what's in these people's hearts and minds. But whatever it is, there's just not many people vocalizing this reality. And that tends to be how, real problems come about, or like how real problems are discovered and then understood, throughout history.
I think, in my opinion, it's because Bitcoin's a little bit of a religion in a sense, where it's like if you agree that there's a problem, it's sort of like a hit to like your understanding of the world, right? And so they don't want to make that admission. Mm-hmm. And so they just actively ignore it, and they just assume it's just going to get solved in some way or fashion. And what's funny, they're right. That's what's funny is like they are right in doing nothing.
Yeah.
The community ends up solving the problem. In the case for the NAT token. And in other news, the NAT token is available on Binance Chain.
Yeah. So this is a pancake swap pool.
This is breaking news. This is brand new as of today. So it has no liquidity in the pool, but
yeah,
I assume somebody's going to add liquidity because they've created this, right?
Yeah. So now we got NAT. This initiated as a Bitcoin native token.
Yeah.
Again, everything was archived on our channel how that came about, but yeah, eventually found its way on Ethereum and Solana, and now it's on Binance Smart Chain. So it's doing its thing. It's proliferating. It's permeating throughout the crypto space, therefore expanding its surface area of access. Therefore, it's becoming more liquid over time. And, all these are very fundamental ingredients to making a successful token. Pair that with its like immaculate inception origin story. Like, it was a free and fair token distribution event.
Yeah.
This wasn't like a pumped out fun shitter launch coin where like some insider has 40% of a bundled supply. Like all of that is publicly auditable and verifiable on chain. You could see like the very well distributed nature to this token. So it's got a lot of good fundamental checkpoints you're looking for. And again, in a time where like the space looks as ridiculous as we do, we're all, dressed in Batman outfits. These are the types of things you're looking for, right? It's like, is there anything out there?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, what's that scene from that movie? Achilles? He's like, is there no one else? Right? Is there something else besides dudes in clown outfits out there parading around in their $1 billion crypto portfolios?
Right.
Well, there is something else. It's here. It's NAT, right? But it's hard to find. I'll give you that.
Yeah, and it's not the easiest thing to understand too. So but that is the nugget that you're kind of looking for in the space. You're looking for the things that are not easy to understand, and you can figure out a position where you take advantage of the timing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just like to add to your point, the NAT token born from Bitcoin, it exists on different chains because they've been bridged to different chains. And here's an example: on Ethereum, it has $600,000 in TVL just by the community contributing to the TVL.
Yeah.
There is no, like I said, no VCs, like there's nothing. There's no team. Nothing is like coordinating this. It's just a community.
Yeah, so from our point of view, if you want to know how we feel about this, it's pretty miraculous. Like we're seeing NAT kind of take a life of its own. Like you're saying, we're not coordinating any of this. We're not. We're mostly focused on trying to implement AI to the best of our abilities so that we can amplify our impact in generating, more tertiary value around this thing called DMT and NAT.
Yeah.
That's what we're focused on. So therefore, our involvement in upholding NAT is very much minimized for now, right? It's going to be much more magnified here pretty soon in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But in spite of that, the community that exists out there in the world, we don't even know who they are in most cases. They're doing what needs to be done to get NAT
correct
to the next level on their own. So it's like, this is actually good. There's humans out doing AI, at least in some respect, right? There's some human agency out there.
That's right.
And they're showing us like that humans are still valuable at the coordination level.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It's pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, so I have a tweet here by Hoodman, and he kind of breaks down the NAT token and the argument of like, oh, if the miners are going to sell it, then where's the upside, right? If they're just going to keep selling it. But he explains it pretty succinctly here in basically like 3 comments.
Mm-hmm.
But where does NAT stack up in all of like Bitcoin tokens? So here we have Ordi, and its current market cap is 56 million. It reached, was it like 2 billion?
2.5, something like that.
Yeah, something.
This is the BRC20 token. So this was several years ago.
Yeah, and it was the very first BRC20 token, and it took off to 2.5 billion, and now it's down, say 85% to 56 million market cap.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the next big one is Dog, which is a very prominent rune token.
Not the first, but the most.
It's probably the most successful rune token, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it's currently sitting at 81 million market cap, and I think its highest was almost $1 billion.
I mean,
it reached $1 billion.
Call it $1 billion.
Yeah. So $1 billion.
Tapped it twice. Yeah.
And here's the current price of the NAT token, 29 million.
So we're all in the same. We're up there, dude.
Yeah, it's in the conversation, right? It's
so
throwing some elbows here and there.
Yeah. So I mean, if this trajectory continues, there are signs of life within the DMT NAT ecosystem. Not so much elsewhere. So there could be a flippening moment where NAT becomes the #1 Bitcoin derived token, right? Which
you could argue
tremendous feat.
Yeah, you could argue that NAT has a utility, right? These do not, right? These are just vibes essentially.
Yeah.
And so the fact that it has utility, it has a purpose, and purpose is severely lacking in crypto.
Yeah. I totally agree. Yeah, purpose and I don't know, something of substantive value that again addresses an actual problem. And something, if we're identifying Bitcoin as that beating core of what it is crypto actually is, then anything that's like, intended to support that very much essential component to crypto's existence, it's a no-brainer from like a value perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's the NAT token. If you guys have any questions around the NAT token, if you guys disagree with the security budget of Bitcoin declining, I'd like to hear about it, and I'd like to understand like your understanding of like how it's not a problem. Please put a comment section below. Our Twitter DMs are wide open, so if you want to chat about this, we're in the DMs. Appreciate you for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.
Peace.